I've been through that, where it's like, I am going to have a mental fucking breakdown if one more person asks me to do their hair. That is the time when you need to raise your prices. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you have never seen me before, my name is Brittney Gray. First of all, I want to point out the fact that I am being an outfit repeater. This is the first t-shirt from my merch line, which you can find linked down below. Shameless self-promotion. But aside from that, I'm just on a roll with these videos and I don't always have a lot of time to film. So when I do, I try to film like a lot of them back to back and blah, 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 blah. Please do not mind my repeated look. I read a comment on one of my videos and somebody was like, I always look forward to see what shirt you're gonna wear and what your look is for the video. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I have a look? I'm so sorry if you're disappointed for this video, and I think I'm gonna film one more. So anyway, today we are gonna talk about how much you should charge for your services. So this video is aimed at my fellow hairdressers, makeup artists, etc. However, if you just work freelance, or if you just work for yourself in general, where you do like a service or something like that, then this will be useful to you as well. I also have a video on how to build a clientele. I'll leave that link down below. So we're gonna talk about how to decide what to charge for your services. And I broke down the science behind it. I broke down at least what I consider and how I decided on my prices. If there's anything in this video that I missed, then absolutely feel free to comment down below, because so we can help each other. So without further ado, if you are not subscribed to my channel, please take a moment to subscribe. I upload new videos every single week and you won't regret it. So let's get into it now. So I broke it down into 5 different things that you should consider when making your prices. So first thing to consider, most importantly, is your overhead cost. Before I even get into that, I also want to say that I feel like we live in an industry where, or we work in an industry where, a lot of hairdressers, it is what it is, or a lot of people who work for themselves, like, we didn't necessarily go to business school. Like, we're not very business savvy. And I'm still learning as I go, and I always try to let people know I'm never speaking from a high horse. I'm just speaking from my personal experience. And so I'm still learning. With that said, something that I've noticed is that a lot of people who work in my industry do not necessarily have a business mindset. It hinders you from making the most money that you can make in this industry, and providing for your family or living the lifestyle that you want to live. I've always been obsessed with hair. I was always good at hair. My parents were like, oh, you should go to beauty school, but I told them I didn't want to, because I just looked at that profession as kind of like a low level profession, because I feel like that's just something that society thinks about hairdressers. And let me tell you that it is not, okay? It depends on what you do with your license. So then finally, when I got my license and entered the real world, I was like, okay, there is money out there to be made in this profession. It all depends on what you do and if you charge how much you are actually worth, okay? So there's the money is out there. The money will come. I promise you the money will come. You just have to have a business mindset always, and don't let people treat you as if you're just doing something for fun, which is something that's common. People just think that, oh, well, you just do hair, you're just a hairdresser, like, oh, you can just do this haircut, or you can just, I need this hair color, it's just this, why is it so much? You know what I'm saying? So don't let those people make it seem like your business is not important and is not a legitimate business, because it is, and you should treat it as such. So anyway, let's get into it now. These are the 5 factors that you should consider when creating your prices. So first and most importantly is you need to figure out your overhead costs. Now, what I mean by that is, if you are a booth renter, how much is your booth rent? Or if you don't work at a salon yet, what is the going rate for booth rent, or how much are you willing to pay? So on average here in LA, I feel like the average booth rent is about in the $250 range, $200 to $300 range. I feel like that's like average, the average going rate here. It also varies depending obviously on where you live. So how much do you want to pay for booth rent? So you need to consider that, how much it's going to cost you per week or per month to rent wherever it is that you want to rent. You have to consider supplies. So if you do color, this is so important for color, okay? Because color is so freaking expensive. So, you know, obviously like gloves, shampoo, conditioner, your shears, all these things are expensive, but hair color in particular is super expensive, and it's like an ongoing cost that you need. And because, you know, you might need to do multiple services or multiple formulas on one client, you need to factor that in. So what I even did myself is that I once took like a can of bleach and scooped like how many scoops is actually in this can of bleach, and how much do I typically use on a client, and therefore I did the math and kind of decided how much it would cost to do a service that way. So if it takes that to do it, like, okay, you know, you have a client where you have to use 2 tubes of color or 1 full tube of color, like factor in how much did that tube of color cost? How much did that ounce of developer cost? Like, you know, break it down that way. Also, your operations in terms of if you use like some sort of card reader service or website or advertising or business cards or your phone bill, these are all things that you need to write down and say, like, how much is all of this stuff costing me every month? And then with that, you also want to factor in your personal expenses, such as your rent or your mortgage, your car note, if you have that, your insurance, blah, 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 all of your personal expenses. And then, so total all of that together to see, okay, I would do it this way. I would create the salon expenses by itself first, and then I would create the personal expenses, like have those 2 numbers, and then have a third number for how much all this stuff would cost. That's just the way that I would do it. From there, you decide, okay, so let's say X amount of money. I'm just going to throw a random number out there, okay? I'm going to say $5,000. That's how much it costs me to freaking function in the world at a very basic level, $5,000 a month, let's say, okay? So then from there, you break it down to, okay, so let's say you're a barber. How many haircuts do I need to do a week? How many this do I need to do a week? And that's an easy way to figure out how much money you need to make, and therefore how many services you need to do at X amount of money in order to at least break even every month. That's not including, you know, extra things that you might want to do. Or maybe you might even factor into your personal expenses. Maybe you want to factor in like a vacation, a yearly vacation, or however often like you want to go on vacation. Whatever your thing is, factor that in. Second thing that you want to consider and look up is the average going rate for X service in your city. I live in Los Angeles, so I would say like an average haircut here, a women's haircut, is about $75. You can go lower than that, or you can go higher than that, depending on factors that I'm going to talk about later. But you know, this is like, you want to figure out what the average going rate is, because it doesn't make sense for you. Like, okay, if I freaking if I had a business on like Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills, for instance, it doesn't really make sense for me to do a haircut, let's say, for $10 a person or $20 a person, right? Because one, the clientele there is willing to pay more than that. And in fact, the clientele there may not even, even if I was like an amazing hairdresser and I give an amazing, like spectacular $20, $10 haircut, people like that type of clientele, it'll deter them from going, because that type of clientele would rather spend more money, so that way they know for a fact that they're getting quality. So you want to consider these things, like where do you live, what's the going rate, where are you working, what's the going rate for whatever service it is for the city that you live or work in. And you want to consider this because you want to be competitive with that, whether that is charging more, less, or whatever. Third factor, and this is very important, you want to take into consideration your experience and your skill level, okay? How long have you been doing hair? And then what is your skill level? So we can say like what your experience is. Like you can say, okay, I've been licensed for 10 years, 20 years, 5 years, 1 year, 6 months, whatever it is, like how long have you been doing hair for? And then what is your skill level at? And be honest with yourself. So you need to think about, what are you actually good at? Are you good at doing haircuts? Are you like, is your color like spectacular or whatever, or something? What do you need to work on? So those services that you do that you may need to work on, I would personally charge a little bit less. It depends on what you want to do with that service. Like, do you want to do that service at all? Is it something that you're just doing just to for extra income, or is it something that you want to build upon? So if it's something that you want to build upon, you could start at a lower price, so that way you get the clients in, so that way you can like practice more. Like you know, you have like the repetition going, so that way you get better and better and better. And this is something that helped me, because in the beginning, when I was out as a stylist on my own, when I started just working for myself, at that time, like, I didn't have the security of having like a big salon and getting walk-ins. I started off as a trained colorist. So for me to do a haircut was like, oh my gosh, I'm freaked out, right? And at this time, I was also building my business. So I did a Groupon, which I suggest doing. I didn't have any negative experiences using Groupon at all. And also with using Groupon, which I talk about in my video about how to build a clientele, you want to be strategic in using services like that, because you don't want to be desperate and then just say, okay, I'm going to sell a package of 5 haircuts for $50 or something, because then you're going to be resentful and you're not going to make money. But I talk more about that in another video. But in any case, because I did the Groupon and I was building, like, I was getting so many clients from that, I was able to, my haircuts like never sucked, so don't get me wrong, but I was able to grow my skills in that, because I was doing so many haircuts a day during that era, to the point that now, like, my hair cutting skills, not to toot my own horn, however, like, I'm like amazing at haircuts. And that's something that I wanted to do, and I ended up loving haircuts after doing that for so long. So if there's something that you want to build upon, then you can start charging at like a lower price. How much I charge for a haircut currently in comparison to like how much I charge for highlights, it's not too far behind in price, and that is because my haircut is like amazing, okay? My hair color is good, but my haircut is freaking amazing. Even though I can do a haircut fast, like, it's fast money, it's faster than doing like highlights or something like that. But because my haircut is so amazing, I have the ability to charge more for it, you know? So something else that I forgot to write down here, so I guess this turned into 6 factors, but another factor that you want to think about is how long it takes you to do a service. Okay, so this is something that I do that I figured out. I figured, okay, what is the minimum? Like, you know, I did all my math in terms of how much I need to make each month, okay? And how long do I want to work each day? You need to think about time. How long does it take you to do a service, okay? So let's say you have a number in your head, which I'm kind of going back and forth on this, which I guess this connects to the 5th thing that I wanted to say, and that is, how much money do you want to make? Okay, so how much money it is that you want to make. Do you have a goal this year? You're like, I want to make $100,000. I want to like profit $100,000. That means you have to generate more than $100,000. So let's just say that you need to break it down to how many days you're going to work, how many hours you're going to work each day, how much money you need to make each hour. And for me, I broke it down to how much money do I want to make each hour at minimum, okay? And you always want to do that. You always want to say like at minimum, because if you make more than that, then that's more money. So let's just say you have it in your head that you want to make $50 an hour, okay? So your goal is to make $50 an hour. So if I want to make $50 an hour, and it takes me, I don't know, 4 hours to do a full head of highlights, then I need to charge at minimum $200 for a full head of highlights, because on average, it takes me 4 hours. You want to make $50 an hour. It takes you, like, doing a haircut, it takes you 1 hour. So then you want to charge a minimum of $50. Does that make sense? So yes, you want to consider your skill level, your time, all of that kind of stuff, and how much money you want to make in total throughout the year, throughout the month, whatever. Lastly, I know I went like back and forth on this list, but lastly, something to consider is supply and demand. How in demand are you? Like, where are you at with your clientele? You know, how many clients are you getting in each week? How much money on average are you generating? And yes, sometimes it can be cringe to like actually look at your like reports from how much you made, how many people are you seeing per week, per month, whatever. If you are getting to a point where you're like super busy to the point that you're like, oh my gosh, I am gonna have a freaking mental breakdown, which I have personally been through. I have been through that, where it's like, I am going to have a mental fucking breakdown if one more person asks me to do their hair. That is the time when you need to raise your prices. With that, you're gonna raise your prices. It can be a little uncomfortable or whatever. You're gonna lose clients. When you raise your prices, you are going to lose clients. However, you will have peace of mind, and then you'll get more, like the money will always be there. I promise you, the money will always be there unless you are charging like, oh, $1 million for a haircut or something like that. However, look, if there's somebody out there who wants to pay me $1 million to do a haircut, I'll do one haircut a year, okay? And I'll be set. But I don't think that's out there. But maybe one day. A girl could dream, right? If you're like super booked back to back to back to back to back, and you want a little bit more time to like, I don't know, like do other stuff with your life, then raise your prices, and that'll weed out certain people. And it's unfortunate. Like, I get it. Like, some of my clients from back in the day, like my Groupon clients, which back then, I think my Groupon where I started, it was like $30 a haircut or something like that. And I know if you're like watching this in like the Midwest or I don't know, some random like small town, no shade, you're probably like, what, $30 a haircut? Like, that's good. That's how much I pay. Or actually that's expensive or whatever. But it's like, I live in LA. Okay. So $30 for a haircut. Like, girl, struggle was real. I was breaking even, but the struggle was real. But what I'm trying to say is back then, like, yeah, I had those clients that were like my $30 haircut clients. They were cool or whatever, but then when that Groupon ended and like they had to pay me full price, or when I even raised my prices after that, yeah, I lost those clients. And it is what it is. Business is business. If people don't understand that, then that's unfortunate. And there are going to be those people who will ask you like, oh, can you give me some sort of deal or whatever? And that's up to you. Like, that's at your discretion. But for me, I don't do that. I mean, I made a video about this, but I just think that it's rude to even ask that, because especially if I don't know you, it's like, like, why would I give you a deal? Like, what if you're bartering with me? If you're going to give me some sort of deal on something that I can use for my life, then by all means, sure, come on in. If you can't do that, then I'm sorry. I'm running a business here. Like, I have to eat. I have to put gas in my car. I have to pay my bills. Like, I'm a person too. And I'm like doing this service, spending my money to even do a service. I need to be paid. When you get to a point where you're so busy, then you can raise your prices. And when you're in demand like that, you can raise your prices. That's just the way the world works. It's just business, supply and demand. And yeah, that is how you can choose your prices. So I hope this video was informative. I know I didn't use exact numbers with this, so but I didn't want to do that, because who am I to say like, okay, this is how much the standard price for a haircut could be? Because again, you could live in like some small town where the average going rate is $20, and like where your mortgage, you can buy like a 4-bedroom house for like $80,000. Like, I don't live in a place like that. So I hope that this was helpful. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if it was helpful. Also, if there's anything that I forgot to mention, then also leave it in a comment down below. Do you agree with the things I said? Do you disagree with anything that I said? Is there anything that you want to build upon what I said? Like, let's start a conversation, okay? What do you guys think? Also, if you're a hairdresser, how do you price your services? How do you choose your rates? And then also, I want to know, if you're just like a client watching this, or, you know, just somebody who's not in the industry at all, like, what do you think about all of this? Because I like doing this out in the open like that, you know, like kind of like meshing the two audiences, because I like for people to understand like why services cost what they do. Because I feel like sometimes when I say, okay, like a color correction, yes, it's probably going to cost you $600, which is like a good rate. I know people are like ready to like fall out because I said a hair service costs $600, but then, you know, like I said, you have to factor in the hourly rate, the overhead for wherever the person is working, all the color that they're using, like all of that, their labor, like all of that, you know, it's going to be expensive. It just is what it is. Okay. So I know everybody would want to get their hair done for free, but slavery ended actually not even last century, the century before that, okay? So, but yeah, anyway, that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys think. If I'm not here, I'm on Instagram at Brittney Gray, and then you guys will see me in my next video, and I will see you guys in the comments. So thank you so much for watching. Bye.